Let me know when you're good.
Go live.
Yeah, why not? We'll try. We'll try to go live. We're live! I think we did it, man.
Right.
Okay. Okay, I think we're live, and I'm assuming there's four people watching here. I'm gonna see if we are actually live. Anyone out there?
Yeah. So yeah, hi
Uh,
guys.
Otherwise, we're live for ourselves, and what's the point of that?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, hi guys. Welcome back to another live stream.
Yeah, Freelancer Finance and LG Investments back at it again. And Carlos might be joining us. He has the link, so we'll see what happens. Let me see. Is anyone in your thing or no?
We're going to see. We're going to
If
see.
not, if not, we'll continue. We'll talk about PayPal Square and
Sure.
edit it and post it anyway. So
Sure.
um, let me
So
see.
yeah.
Let me see what Carlos said real quick. I think he called or something.
All right. So let me real quick bring up
Oh,
with
whoa,
which
whoa,
stock we
whoa!
want to
Mo
start.
Lester is here.
Oh, great.
Mo, hold on, Mo. You told me you didn't like this channel. He said this on Twitter. So leave a comment. What's going on, Mo?
Yeah. So with which company do we want to start? Square
Uh,
or
yeah, so
Block?
we're going to talk Square and which is Block, of course, now, and also
Yes.
PayPal. And Square is doing better because they had their Q4, and I know you covered it a little bit. But yeah, let's start there. How well did they do? And then we'll compare it maybe to PayPal a little bit, right?
Yeah, sure. Sure. So yeah, I think the biggest news here is that they have acquired Afterpay after all. They announced that last year, and this was a 28-ish billion dollar all stock deal. And because both stock prices came down pretty substantially over the last couple of months, the deal now went through for $13.9 billion. You can
So
read that.
can you explain that? I want to back it up a little bit. I mean, it's a live
Mhm.
stream, whatever, but the stock deal isn't it usually for a certain price, or is it just for a certain share amount? So how did that work with them acquiring
I
uh,
think,
Afterpay?
yeah, I think they fixed the ratios. So I'm not 100% sure. So if anyone who's watching could go into a little bit more detail, can explain that. But they announced the deal for something like $28 billion. And now in the report, you can read that it went through for $13.9 billion and a total of 114 million shares that have been issued.
What was the dilution percentage? Do you know?
So yeah, I have that in my spreadsheet actually.
I mean, bring it
So,
up even. Let's just go straight to
yeah,
it
sure,
because
sure.
why not?
Let me share the
And
screen
I know
real
you
quick.
did I know LG Lee did a video on his channel, so you guys will probably link that somewhere that you already covered this, but we're
Sure,
here to discuss it, right?
sure. So yeah, here are the 140 million shares of Block that have been issued. And this number is actually at the bottom here. So at the end of the year, it was Block had 462 outstanding shares, and now they have
Can you make it a little
576.6.
bit bigger? I don't know if you can like
Oh
zoom in
yeah,
a little
sure.
bit.
Sorry. So it
I'm
is,
getting old. Okay, this is the
yes, absolutely. So these two numbers here, right?
Okay.
So
So we have
when we,
462 million shares
yeah,
last year, and this year it's 576. I mean, that's pretty substantial dilution there.
yeah, yeah, something
Um,
like 25% ish or so.
wow. So I mean, that's not great news. Obviously, they're growing massively. We talked about this before. Do you think they overpaid? This is all basically for Afterpay, right? This dilution.
Hmm. Exactly. Well, I think they overpaid quite a bit, but when we compare Afterpay to other companies in the buy now pay later segment sector, like a firm, they are valued similar amounts.
Sorry, I just started the recording. Just in case you need to do that too.
Oh yeah,
But
sure, sure, sure.
on your end, my bad. But go ahead.
Yeah, so when we have a look at companies a firm in the um, buy now pay later segment, they are valued similar amounts. So after all, Square paid 14 billion, and when we are having a look at a firm that is doing similar stuff, well, yeah, they're also valued $12 billion, and they used to be valued way more, right?
Right.
So they now bought a company kind of like a firm, more or less, that's bringing in. Well, I researched a little bit their financials. So you could see here, I put in a new line in my spreadsheet, AfterPay.
AfterPay.
So they acquired it at the start of February, so they cannot account for the revenue for the full first quarter, but in the second quarter they will. And I expect them to bring in something like $200-ish million in gross profits and $300-ish million in revenue. So for the full year, that's like $1.3 billion in revenue and almost $1 billion in gross profits from AfterPay. And they
Just
have better
curious.
margins.
Yeah, so what is the ratio they paid for? They paid, you said 13 billion,
Mm-hmm.
and they're making what? How much are they making this year? I'm just curious for the whole year for this acquisition.
Yeah, I thought around $1.3 billion, accounting for some continued growth, like the company also already grew before.
Okay.
And I kept current gross margins steady. Their gross margins pre-M&A was 73%, which is substantially higher than Block's gross margins without Bitcoin even. So without Bitcoin, it's like 58%. It used to be 55% before the M&A. So you can see it lifts the gross margin up of the whole company. So
Let me ask you. Well, I think in their call we can go to it, but Jack himself or someone or the CFO mentioned that they're making 55% gross margin or somewhere around this. Are they not
yeah,
counting Bitcoin as well?
yeah, they do, but it's essentially just flowing through their system. They're just facilitating the buying and selling for Cash App users. So I always want to factor that out. So they're doing like 2% gross margin on Bitcoin. So $10 billion in revenue, but that's not actual revenue, right? It's just flowing through their system.
Right.
But 2%, that's already $200 million in gross profits for the full year, just from Bitcoin. But when you compare that to the whole total gross profit of 4.4 billion, it's not really that much, right? So I always want to have a look at these numbers without Bitcoin, right?
No, I understand what you're saying, but in their call, they gave a number that's around 50% plus.
Mm-hmm.
Is that themselves taking out Bitcoin, or that's
Yep,
including the Bitcoin because it's so small?
excluding.
They're
Including
excluding it
Bitcoin,
too.
yeah. So including
Okay.
Bitcoin, it's like 29-ish for the
Well, I'm just
last
making sure
two
that they are
quarters.
excluding it when they're talking about
Yeah,
it because I heard
yeah,
it was a Jack or somebody. He said 50 plus percent.
yes,
So even
exactly.
internally, they're saying we're not counting this.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I
Exactly.
got it. And the Afterpay deal, it looks like if they're making 1.3, you said billion, right?
Yeah,
And they're paying around 13. So let's say what a 10x 10 time multiple is that what roughly they're paying?
yeah, they paid 14, but yeah, that's like a 10-ish, 11-ish times price to sales multiple.
Right. Is that a fair deal? I don't know. For M&A, is that what is the usual multiple you pay for it? I thought it was like 5 or 6.
Well, for a company that's growing that quickly in this sector, I think it's not that unreasonable. It's a lot, but it's not completely out of the ballpark, I think.
Okay.
What do you think? I mean,
I
what
mean, okay.
would you pay for if you had to buy not Afterpay but a firm? What will you pay?
Well, the problem is, I think they're all overvalued. Uh, this is like a temp for me. This Afterpay a firm thing. I know they have to have it because even PayPal bought Payd, right? But they pay only $3 billion.
Yep.
So we can go
Yep.
to that in a second. But my question is, what happens in a recession or anything bad that occurs to this part of the business? Because it seems like they're giving basically free loans, sometimes 0%, right? Yes, the revenue is going on their books, but at some point, the people who are taking payments, splitting everything up into 10 payments to buy like comic books or whatever they're buying, a
Mm,
Peloton, and then they no longer need it or they can't afford it, or I mean, they're getting into an iffy situation possibly that what happens if people aren't paying in a certain percentage? So I don't know all those details yet. Like, what is the percent they're allowed to fail in terms of the loans they're giving
mm-hmm,
before it's a problem, right?
mm-hmm,
So this
mm-hmm.
13 billion that they're spending, oh, we're right now counting 1.3 billion dollars, 10x multiple. Sounds good. Oh, great, they're going to keep making that. But in any downturn, I think this can turn really quick on us and that this becomes a losing business and not a winning business.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Not positive.
I think it's interesting because Square is vertically integrating, and we both like that with Tesla, right? and I like it also in the fintech industry. So Square has its seller ecosystem, and now they can sellers can essentially, if they have their website and web store with Square, they can essentially just press a button, and now they have a buy now pay later feature, right?
That's what I'm
So
saying. They need
yeah,
it. They
yeah,
absolutely do need it. But I'm wondering if they're overpaying so much because we go to Paydi, they paid 3 billion, right?
yeah,
For the same service.
yeah. But on the other hand, with Afterpay, they got millions and millions of sellers, right?
Okay. It's already
So they
integrated into
also
the
acquired,
stores.
yeah, they also acquired the sellers. So this is very nice for them. And I think with Paydi, PayPal really got the software and not that many
Mhm.
current customers. So they essentially really just got the software, right?
It's because it's in Japan only mostly, nowhere
Yeah,
else.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
And Afterpay is pretty big in Australia, I guess. So which is one of their first international markets outside of the US. So for Block, that's pretty big. That
Right.
really puts a good fundament in Australia for them.
So you don't see any problems moving forward with this type of business. Let's say we do enter a recession, something happens, no issues with
No,
them
even
losing money on this.
now even as a recession, when people are short on money,
Yes.
they could still continue to buy expensive stuff with buy now pay later, right?
Oh, I know, but what happens if some of them can't pay? That's my question. Like, at what percent
Yes,
is this an issue? I don't know. I don't know that answer. So,
yes. I think the churn rate is pretty small. So as you can see, gross profits with these companies. So this is now Afterpay, but also with a firm. They have very, very strong margins. So I think they can withstand that and just reduce marketing spending a little bit and still be barely profitable.
right, you mentioned 73%
Mm-hmm.
margins for Afterpay.
Yeah, right. And as you can see, they essentially almost doubled their revenues year over year for the full year. And the year before they also doubled, and the year before they also, well, not quite, but
Right.
roughly doubled. So it's a hugely growing market. So I don't know. Aren't you that bullish on buy now pay later?
You know what? I personally don't use it as much. Maybe that's why I'm not that bullish on it. But my wife has a small business, and
Mm-hmm.
she has always people using. I don't think it's. I think it's this one. What is this company called? I forget. After. No, no.
Shopify.
Yeah, but on Shopify they have either Afterpay or the other one. I forget which one they have. You want to check that real quick?
Yeah.
So in either case, the customers on her site do use these buy now pay later things. So it is a percent of the. I should ask her how much, but I remember her saying somewhere around
Uh-huh.
10-20% of the people do use it. What do they have? For equal
Um.
payments.
Oh, for equal payments. That's not really buy now
It's not the same thing,
later.
right? It's a
No,
little bit
no,
different.
no. All stuff. All stuff. Yeah, but interesting. So yeah, essentially every fintech and e-commerce player is yeah getting
They're all
into the
doing it.
space, and now PayPal and Block they do have some key players already vertically integrated, right?
Yeah. No. So once again I know they have to do it. I'm just wondering, it's more like, oh, I have to have this as part of my app. Like for me, that's not the bull case that they have
Mm-hmm.
this. I just think it's like one of the other features that they just acquire. I think their biggest, if we're talking about Square, for
Mm-hmm.
me, the reason I think they're going to win is probably because of small business, right? So
Mm-hmm.
obviously they need this part of the structure, but the reason is they're making tools for small businesses that are easy to use, easy to have a small business, easy to take
Mm-hmm.
credit cards. And now they're even doing, I think in the last quarter, I haven't seen the apps, I haven't used them, but they're doing some sort of a photo app, like an Instagram type
Yes,
thing for small
yes,
business, right?
yes, right here. So they put it in their report here. Yeah, so you can kind of take a picture and put in a fancy background um, behind it right in the app.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
With
it does make it
yeah,
easier because if you are a small business, here's a question for you. You might know this better, but how many big businesses are using
yes,
Cash App and Square and all that?
yes. So that's right here in their on the next slide. Actually, all their segments are growing, but the biggest segment of businesses doing more than 500,000 in GPV annually are growing the fastest. They doubled from the fourth quarter last year to the fourth quarter of this year or 2021, right? They roughly doubled.
Hmm.
And all the others
Yeah,
are
I see
also
that.
growing fast, but slower.
No, I see that. So, well, we want that bigger business to grow faster. Um, I mean, greater than 500,000, that's still that's a medium-sized business, I would say. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
that's a big business. So,
Yeah.
but yes, this is the point of Square that they're really for like the small to medium-sized businesses.
Yes.
And there's a lot of them. Look, there's a lot of them in the United States, right? And in fact, Facebook, you would say, made all of its ad revenue from small business all across the
Yeah.
world. So,
Yeah.
absolutely, this can go massively. Here's a question once again for you. What is the estimate for next year? Did they give guidance on what's going to happen?
Let me have a look. I think they stated something here in the financial part a little
I
bit.
trust on Lee to have all these answers.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Let me see. Yeah, here. So yeah, in January, February, in aggregate, GPV is expected to be up 35% year over year.
Hmm.
Pretty nice. And the 2-year CAGR is expected to be 16% when we compare it to 2019, so pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw a slowdown in January, but then a spike back up in February. And I think that that's going to continue. So when we're moving here to the spreadsheet real quick, what does this mean? I adjusted my estimates. So when we put the for the first quarter, like a 35% growth rate on the $5 billion in revenue, with Bitcoin, right? So again, we have to factor that out. Like I'm thinking, they could do again something like $6+ billion in total revenue. But obviously, the Bitcoin revenue is so uncertain, we
Right.
really can't tell, right? But I think it will be a really strong first quarter for Square.
Okay, so if you were to invest right now, well, we can cover PayPal a little bit, but I think people know if they watch some of the videos. We were buying PayPal at like 180 and 200, and now it's
Mm.
sitting at $100. You want to share the screen, or I can at least to show people
Yeah,
what we
sure,
currently
you
are
can.
sitting at. You want me to do that?
Sure.
Okay, let's see. Besides pimping the Discord, guys, join our Discord. We talk about everything here, PayPal and Square. So come on, and also hit the like and subscribe. We never say that enough, on both
Yeah, sure.
channels. Hit like and subscribe if you're watching. Okay, so I'm gonna go to at least what the stock price right now. So Square is sitting at actually off the lows. I mean, it was like
Mm.
80 something bucks or $82 off the lows. Let me go to PayPal for a second before we get into some of this.
Do you think that's justified, this drop in both stocks?
I think it went way beyond what we thought it should go.
Mm.
I thought the bottom was around 150-ish, somewhere there for PayPal. Like, and that was a big if. That's why I went in heavy at like 180 and 190.
Mm.
And obviously, I bought more. I was buying all the way down now because if you're gonna, your thesis can't change just because the stock price changes,
Mm.
right? They have to do something that we see as wrong, and they've done
Yeah.
nothing to show that they should be demolished right now because they're still growing what they said they're going to grow 20% annual compounded, right? A CAGR of 20%, around there, 18 to 20. So let's say that. And I think he said, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you remember the call? Didn't he say he's doing around 21%, or am I wrong in that?
Yeah, factoring out eBay, it's 24. Factoring in the eBay earnout, it's like 18-ish.
Got it. Okay, still,
Yeah.
but still 18%. It's double digits
Yeah.
growth, which is not exactly, it's not Pfizer. I'm not sure if Pfizer's growing, but you know what I mean. It's not a dividend paying stock. So 20% growth, you might not get a 10x, but to be crushed this hard, I don't know if this is a valid thing. That's why I asked you even in our Discord, like, what do you think about this? But it seems Block is recovering better off the lows. Like Block seemed to just
Mm.
like take off like a rocket, and it's probably because their Q4 numbers were better than PayPal's, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But at this price, my point being, which one do you prefer between the two? Here, I'm going to put them side by side.
Oh, that's a hard one.
This one is valued Square. Hold on. Let me make this put two by side. Okay. So I got this guy here.
Well, you can't even say anymore that when you want to go more on the Bitcoin cryptocurrency kind
Yeah,
of theme, you go with Block, and else you go with PayPal, because PayPal is tapping their feet into cryptocurrency as well, right?
yeah.
Um,
Well,
that's a
they don't
hard
have any
one.
Bitcoin on the books yet, as far as I know.
Yeah,
PayPal, right? But I'm honest. If you have like $1,000, like, do you just buy both equally, or do you pick one over the other?
yeah, that's what I do. Equal parts. I really can't tell which one I like more. I like both at these price levels.
Well, so this one, let me just go over at least show some data here. Short interest 10%, but market cap is $70 billion. Okay.
Hmm.
The forward P, it says here, this could be a little bit off. Sometimes seeking alpha is wrong, but let's say it's still high,
Mm.
80, 90, whatever. And then you go to this guy. This guy's forward P is 24. It's growing
Hmm.
20%. Square is $125, but it's not growing. You said it's going to grow 37%, right?
They saw 35% growth in the first quarter, but I extrapolate less for the full year.
What's
I
the full
think that
year?
for a full year, let me check real quick.
Because then we can get a gauge of which one is a little bit more undervalued than the other one, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I know we should talk about this too. You can describe this more, but the forward PE on Square is not necessarily correct because they're growing so fast and spending so much money to grow, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
And their
price to sales
adjusted
will be a
EBITDA,
better. Would you say price to sales will be better for here or no?
I think for Square, price to sales is the metric to look, and gross profits. And for PayPal, it's free cash flow and price to earnings. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to price to
Actually,
sales.
Square, I think they could grow this year, factoring out Bitcoin, something like 40%. Factoring in Bitcoin, it will be substantially less, only something like, let me see, 17% or so, but it's hard to tell, right? We don't know how much Bitcoin revenue they're going to do.
Okay, but you're still saying 40% they can grow with their core business.
Core business, yeah.
And we know PayPal is growing roughly 18%, right? So when you're looking at just the price of sales, I mean, I think that answers it, honestly. If you're looking
Mm.
at ignoring the PE, you're looking at the price of sales of 3, price of sales of 5, it seems Square is undervalued.
Yeah, growing faster and lower price of sales, right?
Yeah. So
And
if they were both equal or this was a little higher, I would say, okay, maybe we don't know, 50-50 chance. But at this price of 125, I probably would pick up more Square than I would PayPal. Having said
mm,
that, I've been buying both. So I've actually been purchasing quite heavily on both of them as they dropped.
mm, mm.
Uh,
And maybe
and
one note for
yeah,
profitability of Block,
yeah.
adjusted EBITDA actually went over $1 billion for the first time
Do you want to show that on
for a
your? I'm
full
not sure
year.
if that's here. That's probably here too.
Yeah, sure. They booked over a billion for the
Yeah.
first time. So on a 70 bill market cap, that would be a price to earns without the gap statement items that kind of can
Hold on. Do they have
enter
this here?
EBITDA. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the quarterly, right?
Yeah, it could be the quarterly. Well, it says annual. No. Why don't you bring up your
That's
thing?
correct. Yeah, sure. Actually, it's in
Yeah.
the um, let me see. Whoops. It's in the earnings statement, top page, I guess. Yeah, 184 million for the quarter, and when we go to the full year, over a billion adjusted EBITDA, right? So when you
Wow.
look at net income, it's 166 million. So that's why you get the high PE, because here are all the gap items. But when you're looking at adjusted EBITDA, it's a billion, double from last year.
Just to go over PayPal, I don't know if you have this on hand, but what is that for PayPal? Obviously, it's a bigger company, and I know they have a huge, massive free cash flow. I'm just curious.
Let me keyword search it a little bit.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
not
know.
exactly apples to oranges or whatever, or maybe it
Yeah,
is an apples to oranges comparison,
they don't
because
even yeah, they don't even put that in their ink. That's not a metric that they're putting in. I think. I
They're like,
think they're
we make so
targeting.
much money, don't even worry about
No,
it.
I think they're targeting something like 6 billion in free cash flow.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
massive, massive.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, so what is if they're going to continue growing 20% a year, right? What is our bull case? I know I have mine, but
Hmm.
what do you see in terms of Square next year in terms of because your chart is also a little bit bearish for Square in terms of PE, not in price to sales, I think. But what do you actually see happening for the stock price over like let's say next year? Where is this $125 stock going to go?
I think for both as
Yeah.
fintech companies, I expect a sharp rebounds because I think the Omicron lockdowns in Europe maybe suppressed them a little bit. Um, but overall, I'm very bullish on fintech and e-commerce. And yeah, really, I think they're vastly undervalued at this level. So for
I'm
Square,
picturing a double. That's what I'm picturing.
yeah, I could see that happening easily, and they wouldn't even be at all-time highs at this level, right? So I can see a share price based on the price to sales ratio for Block of $300 plus easily.
You're saying by next year, easily $300 plus.
Yeah, we can assume a price to sales ratio of maybe 8 for that. I mean, a company that's growing 40% year over year, that's not so unreasonable.
So you think, so let me be clear, because now you're assuming growth stocks will have a massive rebound where their multiples will expand again, their price to sales multiple, price to earnings, that will continue to expand
Mm.
into next year sometime. I actually agree with you. I think sometime, I don't know about the $300 price target for 2020, the beginning of 2023, but a double for me is what? That's around 250 bucks. So, and PayPal, not $200?
Yeah,
Like
easy.
that's I don't even see how that's like legitimate. That's why now I have to buy it because at $100. In fact, today I was like, should I buy more? It's at 107. But I bought so much already. But yes, I am probably going to go a little bit heavier into both of them.
Yeah, I mean, when we just compared the full year numbers for last year, it was like $25.3 billion in revenue.
Yeah,
Extrapolating the 18% growth, net growth, right, including the eBay earnout, we are at 29 billion, right?
yeah,
And we're at like $5-ish billion in GAAP net income, up from 4.1. I can see that at roughly $200 easily, with a same price to sales rate ratio like with Block on 8 and the 60 price to earnings.
yeah. I want to point out
Yeah,
though, obviously this is not financial advice for anybody because these are my assumptions and your assumptions.
sure.
To me it's an easy double, but I'm willing to wait if it doesn't happen next year and there is some recession or something happens.
Mm.
I don't know. War continues. Maybe that's not good for these stocks. Growth is still being smashed. Like so, it sucks, but I'm okay with waiting. That's the point.
Mm.
That if you can't wait, I wouldn't be trying to YOLO into PayPal.
Yeah, no, I think these are very, very interesting times. If you don't have a position yet and always wanted to have a
Yes.
position, that's a great time to establish one over time and DCA, right?
No, absolutely.
And because you're also a fan of DCAing, right?
Oh no, no, no! I'm 100% a fan. We have a video on it. I'll include
Yeah.
a link at least for me. Okay, so we covered that. I did want to show one thing. We don't have to keep going too long. It's been an hour almost, but I want to show one other thing here that I brought up. I did have all this stuff on the earnings. I think that's fine. We can skip that. But this is a question for you. So I go to eBay still
Hmm.
all the time, and I buy things with PayPal all the time. It's
Hmm.
just one of the options. Is this option going away, or it's just going to be an option there?
It's a good question. I don't even know because they partner up with Adyen. That's the other fintech that I mentioned in another video. Um, I
So
don't even know.
yeah, I mean, I'm just curious because if it's still an option at the end of the day, and they're just going to leave it there, so they're not going to lose all that business that we keep talking about. They're going to lose all that business because I think even in the earnings call,
Hmm.
Dan Schulman said we are losing 700 million. I forgot what it was, the exact
Hmm.
amount, but we're losing that business. I'm
Hmm.
wondering if that's a little bit of a bearish thing if they leave that option because I've been using PayPal for the last year easily. Even
Hmm.
now, I just showed you that was
Hmm.
a live screen grab of like the PayPal thing
Hmm.
on eBay. And why would they get rid of that? I don't understand why they would actually remove that if they can just sell products. Like
Yeah,
at the end of the day, they only want to sell stuff.
yeah. Just as a brief note here, I'm here on the Adyen website, US, North America, payment methods, and let's see if we can find PayPal. Yep, there it is.
Okay, what does that mean? What are you showing me?
So eBay is now, or is going to, or has chosen already Adyen as a new fintech provider for
Okay.
transactions. It's kind of like Stripe. They're doing the same stuff essentially, and there you can essentially activate a lot of different payment methods. AfterPay is on it, Affirm is on it, all the credit cards, and PayPal.
So basically,
So
it's still going to be there. They're still going to
if they
make
want,
money.
yeah, if they want to, it's an option.
I mean, I don't see why they would completely get. It's like because they get their. Do they save a couple of pennies? I don't know. Is that the thing? If they don't put them on?
I think PayPal is more expensive than the others. I don't know about in the US, but here in Europe, PayPal is freaking expensive.
So I mean, this is the bear case. We should talk about that. Is it possible PayPal goes the way of the dinosaur? Is that because everybody's afraid of that? That it's not going to happen over 1 year. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm just wondering, 5 years, 10 years from now, is there a PayPal if they can't keep the pricing fees lower than these other guys? And there's looks like there's a lot of guys here.
Yeah, that's one very good point. I don't even know. Do you know what average percentage does PayPal charge in the US for transactions?
It's like we can look this up, but it's around 2 point something, 2.9% plus some 30-cent fee on top of it.
Yes.
So it could be this 30-cent fee that they're charging. That's really the difference between, because look, they're not even a credit card processor, right? So that means they still have to use MasterCard and Visa and all these other guys, and then charge some small fee like the 30 cents for themselves. That's really what it is, I think, where they get most of their income from, right? Which is also not great because then MasterCard and Visa controls this whole ecosystem really, and everybody's just sitting on top of it. My question is, if they get into crypto and they have, like, I don't know if you've been watching Venmo, but Venmo wants to keep the funds in Venmo, and PayPal too. All of them want to. But so that means every time you're paying somebody and you're keeping money inside Venmo, inside PayPal, they're not paying the 2.9%. So they're making a little bit of a fatter thing. And maybe they can incentivize customers saying, you keep your money here. We'll give you the 2.9% or whatever, or 2.5%, and they take some sliver. I don't think any of that is going on, or maybe they're talking about it and thinking about how to do this, because that would make more sense than paying MasterCard and Visa. But then again, you don't want to poke the giant. What happens when you poke the giant, right? So it's all interesting, but I think PayPal should move to the model of being one of these credit card transaction payment layers, as opposed to just the guys who sit on top of all of this. Then the bull case becomes a lot bigger.
Well, I think the good news here is that PayPal has great margins and great profitability. So they have pricing power. They can always lower their fees if they really feel that there's no other way, or that they stop growing otherwise. But they don't stop. Like factoring out eBay, they still grow 24%. So there's no reason for them to lower their fees. So,
well, yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
I agree. I guess I'm hoping for the scenario where that 18% compounded growth becomes more like 25% or 30% compounded growth, because I think they do have a chance to do that, because every time I go on a website, I don't know how it is in Europe, you tell me, but I always see the PayPal option to check out. And if it's between me putting in my credit card or using PayPal, it's just easier to use PayPal. Do you guys have the same similar?
Yep. Yeah.
What do you use? What do you use personally?
I personally use more credit cards, and here in Switzerland we have a peer-to-peer system that's called Twint. It's like Venmo. Essentially, you can you have the screen. You can just hold the smartphone up to the screen and scan a QR code. Paid, done.
How come we don't have that here? I don't understand.
It's like Venmo. It's like Venmo and Amazon, I guess. You just scan a QR code, flip, finish, done. It's paid. But I know that, for example, in Germany, a lot of Germans like to also use PayPal and not credit cards. So it's very, very, it's their favorite payment method other than direct debit, I guess.
I mean, I hate using my credit card because, one, I don't want every site to have my credit card. So there is a thing with that, stealing of information and whatnot. I'm not saying you can't steal your PayPal information, but it's a little bit harder because it connects to their
Mm.
servers. It just logs you in. Uh, in fact, I've gone so far that places only accept credit cards. I use a service called privacy.com. Have you heard of
Hmm.
them?
Hmm.
Basically, they make fake credit cards based. You put in your real identification into their site, and they generate fake credit cards for different
Oh,
sites
really?
that don't take PayPal, basically, which I do like as well. When I
Yeah.
want something completely controlled and off the grid, and like you can literally set up a credit card, and then it's you can say one time use or only maximum $10 or whatever. Like it's a good service. PayPal should actually incorporate somehow into their own
Yeah.
model, which they don't yet.
Yeah, I get it. A lot of people, especially I guess older people, aren't used to just this new world where you have everywhere your online account. And I guess in this case, you also don't want to have your credit card spread out all over the internet because it's also hard to keep track if there's any mistake, like a wrong booking or so.
Right.
That happens. It's hard to keep track, right?
So it's easier to do with one place. So,
Yeah,
but
right. PayPal.
here's the last question, I guess, before ending the stream. But if you guys in Europe already have these services that aren't PayPal and Venmo, is it going to be hard for PayPal and Square to come to Europe
Yes.
and sort of? Well, go ahead. You can already answer that question.
Yes, I think that's a hard one because the trust in local banks is still pretty high. The opportunity that I see for these companies, especially for Block, is with their offering for sellers.
Hmm.
So I don't see any like really strong software for small businesses here coming from Europe, like Shopify, like Etsy, like Square. That's all from the US or Canada, I guess. Um, I don't see that here in Europe. That's their opportunity. And once they establish such a foothold here, I think it's easy to say, hey, use your app as well. It's free for the customer, right? But I think we have all these local peer-to-peer systems here in Europe. It's very hard to push them out, I guess.
Hmm.
So
So
I
why are you
would
so bullish?
I'm bullish because I think as it's free to use Cash App, and you can, for example, get some special bonus points. And as a lot of people are already also using PayPal instead of credit cards, I think there's a market for that. I don't think that they can push out all the current systems, but I think they can establish some percentage in this market. I don't know. I mean, in the US, it's like Cash App and Venmo have the market dominance for like, I don't know,
Yep.
70, 80% market share or so. So I think if you can provide a really good solution, there's room for, I don't know, 10, 15% additional market share for a third player, maybe. So competition is good for the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, Peter Thiel. That's the last thing I'll say. He had a book called From Zero to One, and in that book, he basically says that we are looking to buy and invest in monopolies. So I always go back and I keep thinking about all the investments I make. Am I buying monopolies? And you want to buy that as an investor, by the way. I'm saying this is a good thing, not a bad
Mm.
thing. When I look at Enphase, yes, we brought you back in here, Enphase. You're welcome. I consider that almost a duopoly. Let's say it's a duopoly.
Yes.
It's Solar Edge and Enphase. So I consider that a good bet. And if I just bought those two, I'm sort of set. Like even if I said I don't know who's going to win, I'll buy these two.
Mm.
These guys are going to take over the market. There's no third player. Let's face it. Tesla's not even a third player. It's like they own 80, 90% of the market. Okay. Now, when I look at PayPal and Square, I'm like, can they have an actual monopoly on this? I don't
No,
know.
no.
And right. So that leads me to believe that if I get my certain price targets, that I will scale out at certain points as opposed to keep these forever. But it doesn't mean they're not undervalued. I still think it's undervalued right now, and I'll get my double or triple. But yes, at a certain point, I don't think it's worth keeping it because they can be disrupted. As you can see, Adyen comes along, partners with eBay, and all of a sudden, PayPal is
Mm.
in a hellhole for how many years now? It's been like 3 years. It's been in a hellhole.
And I mean, you certainly know Stripe, right?
Yes.
Yes, so Adyen is essentially the same, just from Europe. And Stripe, I think they more than tripled their sales last year or so, or the year before. It's like
Right.
crazy, like 9 billion in revenue and 90
Yeah.
billion private market valuation. It's insane. And I think these companies are putting a lot of pressures on traditional fintechs like MasterCard, Visa, traditional banks.
Well, are
Um,
they? because MasterCard and Visa are the backbone of all of this stuff. So I don't think they're feeling anything.
Yeah, because you can pay in Stripe with a credit card, but there are other plugins that you can activate, like a peer-to-peer, or I would assume soon it will be Venmo and Cash App. So I could
Right.
see in the next like 2 to 5 years, this is going to put a lot of pressure on traditional fintechs.
So really, let's go back to a little bit. The bull case is here that Venmo, Cash App, they have their own sort of payment processing that gets used more and more in the next 5 years, as opposed to going through the credit cards where they lose all
Mm.
of this money to them. So if that happens, if they actually show a way that people stay in their system more than now, because even now I use Venmo all the time, but the way I use it is money comes in, money goes to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Money comes in, money goes. If I have to pay somebody, it connects to my bank and it goes
Yep.
to somebody else. So if they can keep us in that loop inside their app, that'll make me more bullish. And I'm already bullish
Yep.
because, like I said, we have a 2-3x. I feel easy, but I'm talking about are they the $1 trillion companies? I don't know about that. I'm not sure about that.
It's hard to tell. If you think about it, roughly 50% of the whole world population don't have access to internet. A lot
Good
of
point.
them are going to get access to internet. So
Right.
with internet comes e-commerce and fintech. I don't know, in 10 years?
Is it possible all what is it? All boats get lifted. What is that saying?
Yeah, when the tide's rising, all boats get lifted.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
So basically, it's possible that Venmo, meaning PayPal and Square, do become really high market cap value. I'm not going to say a trillion, but really high market cap value companies, and and basically everything becomes a bigger company in Adyen, Stripe, all these other guys. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at 2 or 3x, I'm probably taking out at least all of my investment. That's why I'm dollar cost averaging now to bring everything down,
Mm.
taking all of my investment out, and then I'll leave the other half to see for the big what if.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, to conclude, we're both very bullish on Block and PayPal,
Yes.
bullish on fintech, bullish on e-commerce. You're not that bullish on retail, right?
What are you talking about, retail? What does that mean?
Just the retailers like Etsy, Shopify,
Uh, I, I'm not. Well, Shopify I'm
Rebuy.
bullish on.
All
Shopify
right.
is actually doing the right things for small business, and that's a different episode. But Etsy, I know you did. You covered that, but even in your episode, they're raising their prices from 5% to six
Yep.
point five percent. And my wife, by the way, was an Etsy seller. This is like a no go. This is like
Yep.
they're really paying massive fees to everybody, and people like my wife who can afford to skedaddle and leave, they have left, and they're starting to leave. She's telling me all the time. She's like, no, people don't want to go there. The small retailers who have no choice, I guess they're going to stick around and pay that because they're small. But anyone who has any substance, so just like we showed the Square over $500,000, the bigger businesses, they're out. They're not
Yep.
going to stick around for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree. So that was the first time in a long time where I had like one big X in my
Right.
notes for I think they're not doing the right thing there. I completely agree.
Well, the only reason they're doing it is because they need to pump up their stock price and keep it high.
Mm.
I don't like it. I'm not a fan of Etsy. Shopify, I am a real fan of, and it's still too expensive.
Mm.
But I am a fan and I like what they're doing. And I actually see what they're doing with my wife with all her, she uses small business tools. They make it easy to customize your store, to get
Mhm.
people only into your location. So there's a lot of cool things for business owners as opposed to Etsy. Etsy's more like you're just like she said, I think I wrote you in our Discord that you're just like some mall outlet. Like, like you're the pizza place at the mall, which nobody cares about.
Mhm.
You're at the mall and you might eat there, fine. That's Etsy. With Shopify, you get to have your own sort of storefront on Fifth Avenue, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah.
You're your own business. You have your own tools. You have your own customer list, by the way. There's a lot of benefits to that kind of thing.
Yeah. 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 I'm trying to find out which payment options can you integrate in Shopify. Like, how do you pay there? Is it
I
also
mean, we can
PayPal?
have a whole separate episode about that. I think this
Yeah.
one went long enough. So, guys,
Sure.
like and subscribe, please. Hit that bell, of course, for both channels. And we'll keep bringing, this kind of stuff. If you like the live stuff, or no, we can just edit it. One or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let us know. Would you be interested in a Shopify video?
Yeah.
Comment down below.
Shopify versus Etsy.
Yeah.
Big V. Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. See you
Yeah.
later,
Thanks
all.
for sticking around and see you later.